I'm Fungai Chiwarira. I'm the analytics manager at Kaomi Marketing. This is our analytics series. This is the second video in our series. So hopefully you watched the first one. If you haven't, there's a link below to the previous video. Thank you for joining us. GA4 has been around for almost 2 years now. It's about time we all migrated to GA4 because GA3, which we used to call Universal Analytics, is also being sunset. So essentially, we all have to move over to GA4 before the sunsetting of GA3. Universal Analytics, it will be sunset on the 1st of July 2023. That's for standard users. And then 1st of October 2023, that is for GA360 users. And then your historical data will be available up until around end of December. So you should still have historical data from July up until December 2023. Thereafter, Google will probably erase it from their servers. Ideally, what you need to be doing now is to plan around extracting your data. So you need to export it. You're going to take it either to your Google Sheets, databases, BigQuery, you name it. But the onus is essentially on you to start exporting of your data. So what does GA4 migration entail? I'll just start with a brief history of what GA3 is, which is universal, and then what GA4 is, and then what sort of timelines and what sort of processes we need to follow with the migration, right? So as you all know, Google's been around for a while now. It started off with the acquisition of Ehrling, which was one of the very first search analytics platforms back in the day in 2005. And then Classic Analytics was launched in 2010, and then Universal Analytics in 2012. 2016 saw the launch of GA5, which was essentially meant to track app interactions. But Google couldn't put the app interactions together with the web interactions, and that saw the introduction of GA4 in 2021. So, but now it is out of beta, and it's, I would probably say, the go-to marketing tool from Google. So why the move to Google? Essentially, it was a way to kind of see data both from app interactions as well as web interactions. That was one of the biggest things that led Google to introduce GA4. It was essentially just to pull together app data as well as website data, and also privacy. You know, we are living in a world where privacy is a concern. You know, user privacy has been a thorn and a topic of debate for a while now, with the introduction of GDPR, you know, and CCPA, POPI Act. So essentially, all these with to safeguard the users' interests, essentially, you know, just to make sure that we don't take users' personally identifiable information and share it on the web, you know. So that's one of the reasons why Google also had to move to GA4, because it helps with privacy. And then the other reason also was that the tracking mechanisms in that of the current universal setup was different. Whereas apps were tracking page screen views, and websites were tracking page views, apps were tracking events, and then websites were tracking sessions, and it was all user oriented. But the new standard now, which is GA4, derived from Firebase, is all event-based. So that was one of the reasons why Google also had to move from Universal to GA4. The key differences I've mentioned, it's GA3 was more session-based, right? And whereas GA4 is all event-based. So when a user views a page, it's a page view event. Whereas in Universal Analytics, when a user viewed a page, it was a page view. So those are the key differences between GA3 and GA4, right? And as I have mentioned before, Universal Analytics used to have page views, events, social transaction sort of hits, whereas GA4, everything is all event-based. So everything is an event. And then the structure hasn't really changed that much, except that where we used to have views, in GA4, we now have streams. So the top part of it, the organization, the account level, the property level, is all the same in both the new GA and the old GA. The only thing just being the data streams where we had views. Then moving on, GA4 does come with quite a few benefits. So there is very little to no sampling of data in GA4, so you're allowed a lot more hits as opposed to the current Universal Analytics, where you had a 10 million hit limit. So now you can actually gather more data and still see all your data, which helps you make more informed decisions as opposed to when you're using sample data. The sampling points might not necessarily align with the sort of data or insights that you're looking at. So GA4 does come with a lot of benefits. And with GA4, it also brings in premium features. So features that used to be only for GA360 users now are available for GA4 standard users. So you can now link to BigQuery, the GMP platform, that's DV360, SA360 Campaign Manager. You can link to tools like Salesforce, and we've got the exploration tool, which was only for GA360, but now it's available in all GA standard reports. And then GA4 also helps with cross-platform and cross-device tracking, which used to be a pain for Universal Analytics. And cross-domain tracking is also a lot easier in GA4 than it was in Universal Analytics. And then it does also come with quite a lot of interesting features like machine learning, where it gives you insights as far as how your traffic is performing on your site, how users are navigating your site, and giving you insights as well as suggestions on how you can, captivate on, or you can actually maximize on all that data that you're getting from Google based on the insights from the AI tools. Then lastly, GA4 also comes with data-driven attribution, which was not the case in all reports for Universal Analytics. So that is also quite a big one as well. So GA4 did bring in quite a lot of gems for the standard GA user. Implementation. Currently, you still need to set up GA4 alongside Universal Analytics, like I said before, just to start collecting data for historical purposes. So we make use of geotagging, where you have both tags, the Universal Analytics tag as well as GA4 tag, and then just run those together up until a time when GA3 ceases to be a thing. And then you can just run the GA4 tag on its own on the side, right? And so setting up a GA4 tag on your site doesn't necessarily affect your current Universal Analytics setup. It just runs alongside each other. So there isn't any issues, no need to worry about what will happen to your GA3 setup or your Universal setup. They will run in parallel. And GA3 is actually going away in just under 12 months now. And so for year-on-year comparisons, that's why we're advocating for the migration to GA4. So it's not a full-on migration. You set it up and then just run dually alongside Universal Analytics. But it's about time that you set that up. And then what would be the first steps in migrating from Universal or GA3 to GA4? I would recommend doing an audit of your current setup. So you'd run an audit of your GTM setup as well as your universal analytics setup. You see what sort of data is currently being collected in the account, and then try to match that very same data with your GA4 tags so that you don't miss any data. And also, this can actually be used as as an enhanced measurement, I would say, step as well, because you can actually use it to create a new measurement plan based off the new GA4 version. So some points that you weren't tracking with Universal Analytics, you can actually now start tracking with GA4. So ideally, you'd need to go a step back, look at what you were tracking before, look at the business questions, and that will inform how you implement your GA4 setup. Right. So yeah, you'd one of the things that I would suggest you do is you look at the sort of page views that you're tracking. What sort of events were you currently tracking with Universal Analytics? Did you have any e-commerce tracking? If you did, then obviously you'd need to migrate that as well. And e-commerce tracking is actually one of the biggest, I'd say the most complex implementation phase for GA4. So obviously that would need to be looked at quite thoroughly and also have a proper structured approach to migrating all these events. And then so ideally the first thing you would need to do is set up a GA4 view, and then set up a standard GA4 tag in your GTM. And then from there, you now start looking at implementing your events. So you need to start tracking clicks, button clicks, menu clicks, form submissions, any inquiries, the contact us page, because those I would assume are the core events to be tracking on most websites, right? So then at least once those are done, then you can now move on to the more advanced bit, which is the e-commerce setup. So then essentially what you would need to do is look at what you're currently tracking, your product views, your add to carts, your checkout funnels, and your purchase events, and map those accordingly to the GA4 standards. And also with e-commerce tracking, the naming convention is quite important. If you miss any parameters that need to be sent through to GA, then your data will most likely either not recorded or it will come out incorrect. So it's quite important for you to make sure that you follow the naming convention as prescribed by Google. And then after you've done your enhanced e-commerce setup, then you can look at other maybe non-KPI events and custom dimensions, any other integrations that you might need to work on. And the nice part about GA4 is that it actually does come with a debug tool within the interface. So when you do set up your GA4 migration, you can actually test your events in real time, as opposed to Universal Analytics, where when you were trying to track to set up in the e-commerce side of things, you would have had to wait for hours or sometimes for a day before the data actually shows in the interface. So with GA4, you can actually try it out in real time and check your implementation, and then if it's working, then that's it. But otherwise, yes, it does come in handy. The debug tool actually comes in handy. And then once you're done with setting up any other custom tracking and non-KPI or events, then ideally now you need to do your QA. You look at the sort of data that you're collecting in your views. Is it making sense? You kind of have to QA. You look at what you have in Universal Analytics versus what you're getting in your GA4 event, then in your GA4 setup. And then you also just need to make sure that the data that you are collecting in your GA4, is it correct? So obviously, if you're expecting a currency value, you need to make sure that you're collecting a currency value. If you're collecting a string, then you need to make sure it's a string, it's not a number. So essentially, the last phase would be this, to make sure that you do a full audit of the data that you have collected. And if there are any adjustments that you need to make from implementation perspective, then you go back to your tags and adjust whatever tags are collecting data that's not clean or that are not working as expected, and then adjust those accordingly. So it's kind of an iterative process. You'll have to keep going back to your data and your tags up until you get to a point where your tags are sending the data that you want to your analytics platforms. And then you can now integrate with things like Google Ads, BigQuery, and Data Studio. You can use Data Studio as your visualization tool, or you can export your data to BigQuery and analyze it from BigQuery. But that is all dependent on the needs of your business, essentially, or your analysis. So yeah, I think in short, that is all that you need to know as far as migrations are concerned. And we at Kaomi are experts in GA4 migrations. So you can get in touch with us and we will do a consultation with you. We can assist with the migration completely, or it can be a collaborative effort. But yes, just get in touch with us for GA4 migrations, any GA4 questions. We'll do our level best to assist as much as we can. I'm Fungai Chiwarira. I'm the Analytics Manager at Kaomi Marketing. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more insights. Thank you.